everyone, thank you for tuning back into the channel. I greatly appreciate it. So, with the holidays approaching, I kind of wanted to talk about an important subject that, um, will spread encouragement to those out there who may be struggling right now, and, specifically those in the workforce who are overwhelmed right now and just, trying to make the best of the holiday season as they can. Um, so to preface this, the reason I got inspired to make this video is I saw a news article the other day, and when I first read it, I didn't think it was real, but when I did read it, I was furious. And, it's one of those articles where you really wish it wasn't true, but it was, especially in an economy right now where everyone is struggling, and you're trying to make the best of what you can with what you have. And the fact that any company would do this to their employees who are showing up to work every single day, knowing what they're getting into, knowing what they're signing up for, and still trying to give 100% is completely absurd. And it needs to be brought to attention because no one, and I mean no one, deserves to be treated like this. So, just to preface this, I'm not going to be actually naming the company itself due to liability reasons, but I will say this company is notorious for how they treat their employees. I mean, I've seen several different horror stories, and the fact that they could do something like this is just sickening and disgusting. So, according from what I got to from the article, what happened was these employees were on their way to work. They were thinking today was going to be like every other day, and they were ready to go in, clock in, and do what they have to do. Well, when they got to work, apparently there was a notification, not even, and there was no advance notice or what have you. They get to work, they're ready to sign in, and all of a sudden they receive a notification. I'm not sure if it was via text or email, but the notification basically stated that, I'm sorry, as of today we are going to be no longer needing your services. So effective immediately, your employment is going to be terminated. And, like I said, this was especially rough, not only because of the season we're in right now, but because of the economy we're in. A job is hard to come by, and you've got a lot of companies boasting about hiring and that nobody wants to work, but then you've got companies that do stupid stuff like this. And it's like, it's not that nobody wants to work. No one wants to be hired by a sketchy employer where you're afraid that you could be let go for any given reason at any given time. Employees want to be treated with respect. They want to be treated with dignity. And I don't feel like that's too much to ask. Because if you're expecting your employees to worship the ground you walk on and put in 150%, then the least you can do is treat them like the actual human beings there are, and not just some robot that can be replaced. And I saw the emotions, I saw the tears, I saw the anger, and I'm outraged for them. I'm angry for them, and my support goes out to them. Because I would be livid if a company did that to me. If one day I'm on my way to work, and I'm expecting everything to be just like every other day, and then without any given warning ahead of time, they say, well, we don't need you anymore. And the fact is, it has happened to me a couple of times. And so the fact that we live in a culture where that's acceptable is disheartening, it is saddening, and ultimately it's completely disrespectful to the employees who are out there giving their best every single day, knowing that they're dealing with not the best working conditions, but still willing to look past all of that to try to provide a good life for their friends and family. Now, again, this is a company that is notorious for their borderline inexcusable work schedules, their employees who are working ridiculous hours in borderline unsafe working conditions. And this is a company that, and maybe this is a little bit too descriptive, but it needs to be said out there, that would not allow their employees to leave during a tornado warning. I personally would have, and I'm glad some legal action did come of this, but I would be furious if that I was told that There's no job that is going to be worth your physical safety. Let me say that right off the bat. I don't care how incentivized it looks, how good the paycheck. Your safety is always going to be your number one priority. And I cannot stress this enough that I don't care how the employer tries to make it seem like you can't leave. If your physical safety and well-being is at risk, or your mental health and well-being is at risk, leave. Nothing is going to be worth pushing yourself to the point of exhaustion. There's going to be no amount of money in the world that's going to be worth it. And it's a hard reality of the retail world and the service industry world. I mean, even in our education system, our teachers being given little support and, over the top working expectations with the little tools they have to work with. And these employers are so disconnected with their employees where they think, all right, well, if we lose a few, we can always replace them. That is a horrible mentality to have, especially when you are living in an economy where it is difficult to find a job. And a huge problem with a lot of these jobs that are hiring right now and they can't find good talent is they're making it impossible to apply there because they need some ridiculous amount of experience or a certification that really doesn't need to be required to do the job. Now, I wouldn't expect someone to apply for being a brain surgeon or a pilot without having a degree, but to be able to manage a store, that doesn't take a lot of skill. That doesn't require 4 years of a bachelor's degree. Or for God's sake, managing a restaurant. You don't need a bachelor's degree to run a restaurant. I mean, math is involved, yes. Social skills are involved, yes. But it's not rocket science. I could, if I had the chance to, I would open my own restaurant. And I could do it with my hands tied behind my back. Because I know that, a key point in running a restaurant is making sure that both your employees and your staff are satisfied. And that is why it's so ridiculous that these employers are so disillusioned that they can't understand why no one wants to be a server or a waiter or a waitress when their livelihood depends on tips. And I could go into a whole rant about tipping culture itself. Like, we've bred an entire culture where we think that tips should be... It's called gratuity for a reason. If you're doing a good job and you went over, above, and beyond, yes, the person deserves a tip. But it shouldn't be mandatory to pay your employees that you're hiring, that you need to survive to keep your business open. They should not have to live on that gratuity. And you could use the excuse, well, if we raise our minimum wage, then we're gonna have to raise our prices. If you are paying your employees well enough, and you're getting good reviews so business keeps on booming, then you shouldn't have to worry about raising prices. But you decide to take the stingy route and pay your employees below minimum wage, and you're going to see a lot of dissatisfaction among your workforce. And again, this all boils back to the news article that I read. The fact that any company could look at their employees like a number and say, well, we've got as much work as we needed out of you, go away now, without any time to job search for a second job, without any time to prepare a backup plan, is completely and utterly disgraceful. And again, I stand in solidarity with these employees, and I hope nothing but the best for those that lost their job that day. I mean, I could understand why they were upset and furious at the situation, especially, like I said, when right now it's more important than ever to try to bring food on the table with the holidays coming up and stuff. And, a lot of it has to do with that disconnect in how employees are expected to leave a job versus how employers expect to make you leave a job. Like, if you want to leave a job for a better opportunity, they will shame you degradingly for it, and they'll say, well, we at least need a 2 week notice minimum in order to let you leave on a good term. Even then, that doesn't guarantee you they'll say good things about you in your if you use them as a reference. That doesn't guarantee they'll be a good reference. However, on the flip side of that, an employer doesn't, like, a lot of these states are at will. So if they could let you go for not liking the color of your shirt, or they could let you go for not liking the sound of your name, and employees are helpless at that. And I find it that so many other countries look at us and they're like, is that really how it is? I mean, you would think if someone told me that I was making below minimum wage and I had to work 10 to 12 hours each day, 7 days, 6 to 7 days a week, you would think someone was telling me a fib. But it's the truth. And it's no wonder why America's work, balance, or not balance, but, what's the word I'm looking for? Workforce is looked down upon. I mean, you've got citizens from other countries wanting to come here looking for a better life. But, they always glam it up in the movies. They're not going to show the reality of what it's actually like. When you're working so tired, you come home, you don't even feel like cooking anything. Or you're afraid to go to work because you're afraid it's going to be dangerous the next day. And they get here and they're like, this is not what I was expecting. This is nothing like how they made it out to be. I mean, I'm not ashamed to say the American dream is dying right now. Because, there's a lack of positions in the workforce, and the positions that are being taken aren't offering a good enough incentive to stay at the job. And to use an example, I will use a popular game store that I actually listened to an article about. It was a podcast that I was listening to, and what evidently happened is this gaming company, they were not more than a couple weeks ago begging their employees to come back, and they were like, we really need your help, we really need staff, we're not so bad. Well, what they ended up doing once everyone decided to come back aboard to try to help the company, they stripped the employee benefits down to the bare essentials. And I mean the minimum bare essentials. They took away their discounts, they took away their point systems, they took away everything. And, I think there was only, once they went through the list of everything that was taken away, there were only, 2 benefits left. And to add insult to injury to that, it wasn't just the employees that were screwed over in this deal. It was the customers, too, because they took away the rewards programs, they took away basically a majority of any reason that someone would want to come back and do business with them. And here's the thing they forget. They're in a sinking ship right now, because digital media is becoming the next big thing. Physical media, physical copies of video games and DVDs and stuff like that, that's becoming a thing of the past. Quickly, I might add. Streaming's taking over now. There's no reason to continue buying physical copies when you could just go online and buy the game and stream it from your computer or your virtual console or what have you. So the fact that they decided to pull this move, especially right before one of the busiest times of the year, it's dumbfounding to me that they thought that was a good idea. And, again, it's why it's important to remember that no matter what area of the workforce you're in, whether it's teaching or food service or retail or what have you, we have to remember that we're all in this together. It doesn't matter what walk of life you're coming from. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. What I'm trying to say is, we're all facing the same adversary here, and it's those on top. Those executives who are so disillusioned with what it's like to actually be on the front lines, dealing with aggravated customers, and, the dangers of working in an actual physical store, like robbery and theft and what have you. And actually, that brings me up to another point, because a lot of the decisions these executives make are so incredibly stupid. Like, for example, there was a news article. I'm not sure if in case you missed it, it was about Target, and apparently what they had decided to do was keep the prices the same, but advertise it as a big sale, and change the color of the sign to make it seem like it was different. Now, I see a lot of backlash saying that, well, you should have known it's actually common practice, and you know, the customer should know what to expect. But here's the thing: if you've been working in retail as long as I have, you know that sometimes the message is not that clear, and especially when you're changing the sign to a different color. Sometimes I could, to use an example, Goodwill has certain days that if there's a different color tag on it, you get a certain percentage off. And so if you walk in there on that specific day and you ring it up, the transaction up, a certain discount will be taken off the purchase price. Now, when you're thinking of Black Friday, I mean, that's, nobody asked for that to be a thing. But retailers decided to make that this big, huge hubbubaloo where everyone's thinking that they're going to be getting this amazing discount. But if you're going to try to fool your customers into thinking they're getting a great bargain, when all you did was just change the color of the sign. I mean, they didn't even do a good job of hiding the regular sign. They just put it behind. And allow me to get this right off the bat. I am not blaming the cashiers and the entry-level employees who change the signs. I am blaming the executives for this decision, because this has to come from like district managers and executives. And I'm not afraid of saying this about them, because I would never go back to work for Target, because it's just it's a sinking ship. It really is. I mean, they're replacing every one of their cashiers with self-checkout. They're adding more drive-ups and pickups than they can actually maintain. And they're overworking the employees that are working there to the point where they're exhausted and they're upset. And you expect to win these employees over with pizza parties and $20 Target gift cards? Like, realistically, what outside the office department are you going to be able to afford for $20? You can't even get a new pair of shoes from Target for that much. And to try to incentivize them with, like, basic discount food and small chump change gift cards is not going to work. And again, I'm saying this, you're seeing this all across the board. It's not just the retail industry. It's the restaurant employees that are getting sick and tired of being confronted and abused by disgruntled customers who think they can be treated any way they feel like it. Treat them any way they feel like it. And this is why it's so important as a country that we stand together and strive to make the change in Congress and for our workforce. And I say this because it's not just important for us and our generation, it's important for future generations too. Like, we should want to make the world the workforce a better place, so that our kids don't have to go through the same BS that we had to go through when we were starting out. And, it's one of those things where she's so cute. Anyway, no. It's one of those things where we have to be self-conscious about what we want the future to look like. I mean, right now, as it stands, our country is lacking in so many areas of the workforce. Like, we're the last ones to have paid sick leave, paid maternity leave, and other countries look on at us from the outside and going, why the heck would anyone want to work under these conditions? And, I'm so proud of those who are actually taking a stand and saying, enough is enough. We want better working conditions. And that's what we need to be doing. Because as long as we continue to ignore the facts that are going around us, and part of the problem is we live in fear because of that disadvantage that we have. The employers expect us to be content that we just have a job. But when that job can be taken away for any reason, without any notice, without any thought to how we're gonna make it, then no, we're not just gonna sit down and take it. We need to stand together, and we need to make a change for a better future. And yeah, some of that has to do with making sure that it shouldn't just be socially; it should be economically too. We should make sure that our companies are being making things better for the environment, and we should be recycling more. We should bring more awareness to important social issues, like helping those in dire situations get out of it, and protecting the environment so that we have an Earth to see for the protect for the future and stuff like that. And I'm sorry, it seems like I'm going on a long monologue here, but enough is enough. You know, there's got to be a point where we stand up for ourselves and say, you know what? We are done being used in this certain way. You've gotten away for this for too long, and we will not be treated like just another number anymore. We are individuals. We are human beings, and we demand to be treated as such. And, you see these kind of protests all the time, like at Starbucks. You see them walking out and demanding to be unionized. And at other stores as well, I'm so glad to see other people taking a stand against these borderline impossible working conditions and wanting to make their workplace a better and safer environment for everyone. Now, the number one thing when we're doing that is remembering that, at the end of the day, no matter how much or how little you're being paid, the workplace needs to come second before yourself. Remember that you are a human being. Your mental health and your physical well-being has to be your top priority. Well, a lot of employees say, "Well, I can't afford to do that." It's like, you shouldn't have to be worried about affording to make that happen. You're selling your time to your employer so that you can bring business into their company. You deserve to be compensated for the mental toll that it takes and the physical toll that it takes on your health. And frankly, we deserve to have a wage that's going to reflect the inflation that we're dealing with right now. Because if the cost of living increases, but our budgets stay the same, then it's not going to make a difference in the long run. We're going to continue the cycle of, it's not going to make a difference of how long we work. We're never going to see the end. We're never going to see retirement. And that mentality is eventually going to bring us down as a society. We need to make things better in our workforce, for our employees, for our frontline workers who are giving everything they can to make sure that our society does not collapse as a whole. So, the point of this message is, don't be afraid to call out, ridiculous circumstances when you see it. Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. And more importantly, take good care of yourself. I cannot stress this enough. No job is worth selling your mental health and physical well-being just for what basically equates to Trump change. Let's make the future better for the future generations. Let's give us something to be proud of as a country that we can stand and say, you know what? We did a good job. We did a good thing. We made our workforce better. Let's work towards that. Let's do that. And let's not be afraid of receiving backlash, because at the end of the day, if these companies don't have employees that are on the front lines, they're not going to have anyone to run their stores, and they're going to hemorrhage money like there's no tomorrow. We are the employees of this country, and we are what keep the wheels turning in the workforce machine, as it were. We should not be afraid to take a stand and demand better working conditions and better compensation for ourselves. So, with all that being said, and again, this all started from a small story that I wouldn't have known about if I hadn't been reading the news article that I had. So, like I said, for all of those who are taking a stand against their bad employers or their corrupt companies, I fully support you. You have, you know, I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful that you're finally holding these companies accountable for the shady practices and, greedy business dealings. Let's continue doing this. Let's work towards a better future for our workforce. And with that being said, thank you for hearing my monologue. I greatly appreciate it. This was a important video that I feel like I had to make, and I hope that anyone that watched this got inspired to stand up for themselves, and I hope they remember that their self-worth is very important, and never doubt yourself or your self-worth. With that, if you like the video and the content of the video, feel free to check out another. Leave a like, subscribe, comment if you have anything you want to say. I always look forward to community involvement. And I just hope you have a great rest of your December. I'm looking forward to what 2024 has in store. And I hope you all have a good night. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for tuning in.